The justice of God. The justice of God is too instantaneously comprehensive to be at all thought of by man, who indeed cannot be just because his nature is bent to a strong line of self-advancement, interpreted from an ancient Shinar script. Before one approaches the writings of Osiris, one must be prepared to throw overboard many preconceived ideas regarding religion. One must have mental flexibility and a sincere wish to regard the subject from an unbiased angle. The majority of church-going and very orthodox people will be shocked because the revelations have not yet come from the pen of a bishop. It is a fact that people are so obsessed with the idea that any revelation must come from a dignitary of the church that they will at once say it is of the devil. What they cannot see is that the devil, as they call him, has so crept into their teachings that there is very little original truth left in them. Those Syrian scripts contain much that is a stumbling block to the mentally rigid, who will be lost to climb that little mound of dogma which obscures their vision and will not allow them to see the clear, broad landscape beyond. One very great drawback to the Orthodox is that the language used in the scripts of Osiris is absolutely simple and free from all embellishment. Religion is probably the most innately conservative subject that exists. You must not discuss it in ordinary everyday language. It must only be approached and discussed in a highly conventional manner. Taking all this into consideration, it must be a little shocking for those unaccustomed to hear religion discussed in this manner. Unconsciously, people are apt to base their style on the Bible or the prayer book, and yet we do not know in what style the original Gospels were written. They have been handed down to us and have been translated and retranslated, and it is a fact that no originals have ever yet been discovered. It is therefore impossible to know what distortion of fact or style they have been subjected to through process of time. The scripts of Osiris are an original revelation, and if people are a little bewildered at the style, they have no proof that the original Gospels and the Old Testament were not written in exactly the same style of contemporary language. Those people who wish to take up and study these new teachings must make up their minds to remove all the old furniture or dogma to make way for the new. You cannot have both the old and the new. They will not fit in. Nor can we expect the new furniture to cover the old patches in the carpet of tradition. The carpet may also have to be removed. Mental elasticity is absolutely necessary to those studying these teachings for the first time. There is one most important point to consider, that is time. Often we get prophecies given to us and we are disappointed because they do not come to pass at once. We are apt to expect their manifestation in the immediate future instead of remembering the saying, "1,000 ages in thy sight are but an evening gone." Cosmic knowledge is so vast and mortal conception so limited that we see no further than the present and expect everything to happen at once. I find that the masters have no sympathy with us when we desire to know dates. In the higher spheres time is unknown, so it is almost impossible to talk in relative terms. This raises the question of when the final proofs promised in Osiris's teachings are to be given. I do not know exactly. Much has been proved already, and fresh discoveries are coming to light, confirming the statements made in these teachings. It is no good, therefore, to criticize the teachings because no dates are given. What are a few years compared with the eternity behind and ahead? The only time Jesus ever gave a date was when he prophesied St. Peter would deny him thrice before the cock crow. It must also be remembered that free will is universal on this sphere as well as in the higher spheres. Prophecies throughout the ages have always been uttered as pointers or warnings, and mankind has been given simple opportunity to put his house in order. Mostly he has failed to react to them, accepting them as religious dogma rather than facts to be faced, and has consequently landed himself in wars and disasters throughout the ages. God could, of course, convert the earth in a moment of time, but he does not choose to do so. He wants to see the evolution of his plan for the eventual perfection of his creations. He therefore gives man time to justify the free will given to him. Human nature, with all its mistakes and petty stupidities, could not be expected to run exactly to prearranged schedules. Although the original divine plan will eventually manifest according to design, free will is given to man that he may react to the divine plan and so arrive at the end of the journey, having individually brought out all that is best in his nature. Each person will react differently, but it is God's will that eventually, through his own efforts and the lessons learnt thereby, man will arrive at the journey's end and attain that perfection for which he awaits. I myself have not accepted the writings of Osiris blindly. I have taken very good care to keep a critical eye on all that has been given to me, but I am bound to admit that never have I been given anything that has not eventually been vindicated in spite of ridicule and opposition. It has taken some 28 years to prove many of the communications, and if I had not had absolute faith in the ultimate fulfillment of all that has been given through my hand, I should have thrown up everything long ago. I must admit that some of my original supporters have gone their own ways, but that is their business and not mine. We all have free will to accept or reject a thing as we see fit, but we have no right to pass judgment on the instruments of production when we ourselves are not infallible and have very limited knowledge. Definitely, those scripts of Osiris open up channels of thought which should be explored. They reveal such extraordinary openings for scientific as well as medical research. For instance, it is only within comparatively recent years that the existence of a subconscious mind has been admitted, and for instance, it is only within comparatively recent years that the existence of a subconscious mind has been admitted, and so far little has been done to investigate its functions and potentialities. Then such things as vital force, the astral body, etc., are almost unrecognized in the medical profession, and if advanced, only meet with a storm of ridicule. I will go so far as to say that few scientists believe in the existence of an ego or even in a divine source of nature. They will tell you, like a well-known scientist in a recent book, that things came into existence by chance and that there is no supreme force or being. But just ask them this question: if there was nothing, how did the universe come into being? For if there was no original source of creation, how could creation have taken place? You must have some unknown quantity to account for creation. Sometimes you will be told, oh, these things are beyond human conception and deal with dimensions beyond our own. Exactly. Dimensions and things all beyond our human ken, but things nevertheless real and existent. Yet they must all admit that the moment before death there is something present within the mortal body that is not there afterwards. The most important subject of mind, spirit, and body has been hopelessly and absolutely neglected by science. It is looked upon as spooky nonsense. There are, of course, exceptions, such as the late Sir Oliver Lodge, the late Sir William Crookes, and some few others, who do not adopt this stupid attitude. If, however, science and philosophy have been behind in exploring these avenues, how much more so the medical profession? They are more to blame because they have failed to appreciate the effect of mind on body and vice versa. For some reason best known to themselves, the medical profession, especially in England, shows a stubborn hostility to anything new. With the exception of surgery, medical progress has been slow, and new ideas have come from fearless men like Pasteur, who were not afraid to investigate avenues that have not the sanction of the General Medical Council and such like bodies. The teachings of Osiris open up several new lines of investigation for medical science in relation to psychology and the relation between mind and body. I will first deal with the teachings of Osiris open up new the teachings of The teachings of Osiris open up several new lines of investigation for medical science in relation to psychology and the relation between mind and body. I will first deal with the subconscious mind. Osiris indicates the nature and reality of this subconscious mind and indicates the difference that exists between the spirit brain, which survives after mortal death of the body, and the purely mortal physical brain, which is an instrument for receiving and passing on information to the subconscious mind to deal with a human wireless set. We often use in daily life the expression, I'll sleep on it. What we should do is to make ourselves thoroughly at home with our subject or problem, then we should leave it. More often than not, we should find that with the morning would come the solving of our problem. Of course, imperfect data given to the subconscious mind will receive an imperfect result, so it behoves us to be careful as to what we leave lying about in our conscious mortal brain. The subconscious mind is a dreadful thief, and when we give ourselves up to sleep, the mischief can so easily be done without our knowledge. With practice, we can develop this subconscious mind for use in our everyday life and business. Secondly, let us deal with vital force. This is essentially a subject for the medical profession, who should try to find out what it is and how much it permeates or is affected by the mortal body. A study of the thesis of Osiris will tell you that vital force is that I am which emanates from the Creator. To talk in terms of electricity, it is the animating charge put into the physical body, which is the battery. The action of the vital force on the mortal body is the same as that of the electric charge on the battery. As the battery is useless without the charge, so is the body. Both are dead. In the case of both the battery and the body, the physical and chemical conditions are dependent on the initial charge. If the ego is weak and feeble, the body will suffer in some way or another. It will be attacked by all manner of diseases. So it is with the battery. A bad charge will deplete the efficiency of the plates in the battery. If the charge is allowed to run out, the plates will corrode and die, and the battery will become useless. So with the body, when the charge or ego is withdrawn, the physical body will decay and become useless. It will die. As vital force is an electrical vibration or impulse, it is easy to visualize the relationship between this ethereal vital force and the chemical physical body. The relationship has long been dimly recognized by such doctrines as Christian Science in such vague phrases as the power of mind over matter or the will to get well, and so on. It must be obvious that doctors will never really arrive at the true nature of disease until they start to study the relationship that exists between the vital force and the physical body, any more than it is possible to arrive at the condition of the plates of a battery without first knowing the state of the electrical charge. The next points to be considered are the two bodies. Footnote 1. There is also an etheric counterpart which is dealt with fully in the wisdom of the soul. The two bodies of a human being, the astral body and the physical body. As one might expect, the former controls the latter. It is the etheric framework which encloses the soul and which is the divine covering of the ego, the I am. The emanations from the astral body are seen by clairvoyance as the aura. There is definite scientific evidence that the human aura exists. The late Dr. J. Kilner of St. Thomas's Hospital carried out much research in this direction, and in a book entitled The Human Atmosphere, the Aura, he found that he was able to diagnose disease by observing the auras of patients. He was not an occultist or clairvoyant, but used a solution of dicyanide and alcohol, which in some way sensitized the optic nerve so that in a dim light he could see the auras of patients. He was able to observe that various diseases affected the aura, also that it was susceptible to the forces of electricity, magnetism, and various chemical forces, as well as to the power of thought. Dr. Kilner, not possessing occult knowledge, never actually stated that the aura was composed of emanations outlining the astral body, but my teacher has told me that this is the case. Having regard to these facts, I fail to see how disease can be properly dealt with until the relationship existing between the astral and the physical bodies is more clearly understood. Disease of the physical is merely a result. What, however, medicine does not do is to trace it back further to the primary motive. The astounding feature of the whole thing is that in spite of the fact that so brilliant a man as Dr. Kilner demonstrated the existence of an aura, the medical profession have taken little or no notice of his discoveries. It is, however, the same in all avenues of research, be it theological, medical, or any other avenue. The enthroned experts are so afraid that they are going to have their pronouncements challenged by outsiders that they will deny the possibility of any new discovery that does not come from their own ranks. Strictly speaking, it is a dishonest attitude to adopt, but it is very common. From this we come to another most important point raised by the teachings of Osiris. It is the quickening of the unborn babe by the application of the first charge of vital force. There is an astral body ready and growing with the physical embryo, and when the quickening takes place, the soul, which is the vehicle of the ego, enters into possession of this astral body. Quickening will of course take place in the case of the stillborn child, but in this latter case no ego has come to take possession, so that the physical embryo will cease to live directly. It is born, and can no longer depend for its life on the mother. In other words, it cannot live a separate life. After 5 months, the animal embryo is quickened, but the teachings of Osiris lead one to believe that the incarnating ego is in close proximity to the parents, some time before conception takes place. If this is not so, why does Osiris say that it is most necessary that the parents of an incarnating ego control their thoughts and actions immediately before and at the time of conception? There is obviously some deep significance in these words, which seems to destroy the orthodox idea that life takes place with the first breath after birth. A question that immediately requires answering is, why are egos prepared for and allowed to enter the physical creations of many illegitimate or undesirable physical unions? The answer, of course, lies in reincarnation. It is the ego's chance to repair the mistakes of the past, and it may therefore desire to reincarnate in the physical vehicle of such a union, for the unfettered soul can see clearly the environment in which it should reincarnate, so that it may overcome the errors of the past, and so continue along the roadway of the divine plan. At the present time, we are approaching a definite landmark in the creative design, and as many egos as possible are being incarnated, so that they may be able to take part in the great plan. As it approaches the crossroads of modern civilization, prophesied in the Bible as Armageddon, and in the scripts of Osiris as the atomic age, which can lead to untold benefits and peace, or if wrongly applied, to cataclysmic ruin and misery to mankind. Finally, I would like to say something concerning that elusive force referred to as healing power. Many members of the medical profession possess it, and the layman calls it a good bedside manner. Such people have a personality which soothes and heals. If, as we have already said, vital force has a definite effect on the physical body, it is obvious that any person who can exercise a healing or calming effect on this vital force will be, to a great extent, healing the physical body, which is, after all, only suffering as the result of some disharmony existing between the ego and the physical body. I have told you that Dr. Kilner discovered that he could diagnose disease of the physical body by studying the aura, as he called it. There is no doubt that some spiritual healers do an enormous amount of good, and in many cases diseases are cured that have defied the most expert medical prognostication. In 9 cases out of 10, these healers do not know how or why they cure. All they know is that they cure. Actually, they have a superabundance of this vital force, which they are able to divert for the use of their patients. You will remember that Jesus said, "Who touched me? Virtue has gone out of me." He knew that he had lost some of that vital force. A true believer among the crowd touched him, having complete faith that he would be healed. The effect was that power or vital force was expended and passed into the physical body of the invalid. Often we say, so and so takes all the life out of me. Actually, unconsciously, they have been vampirizing us and nourishing themselves at our expense. We are not careful enough over this. It is just like water, which will always balance itself and find its own level. If we do not know how to shut the door, we shall find that we are giving all the time, and consequently we shall attract all those who require such help, for they come to us like moths round a flame. The occultist will guard against this by the power of thought. Thought is real, and knowing this, he has only to construct an electrical wall around himself, which cannot be penetrated by outside forces. Many people will say, "This sounds very easy, but how is it done?" It is only done by knowledge of the infinite and his natural laws. in this case, as we have said, by thought. If that knowledge has not yet been awakened, then we cannot create anything, much less a simple electric circle. In conclusion, I should say that before one can understand the natural spiritual laws, one must throw away all the dogma and materialism of the past. The portals of spirituality and atonement must be approached in all humility. The student must realize that he knows very little and that he must go to school all over again. He must seek the temple of God within himself and find knowledge by calling upon the divine I am, or essence within.